I got it. And okay.
Okay. Well, it's good talking to you, Katie. So, welcome to all my office workplace warriors. Welcome back to another episode of Dear HR Diary by Manage with Hart, the unfiltered truth you wish they taught you in management school. We were having a fun little chat before we got on about all the stuff that we wish they would have taught bosses in management school. That's like essentially the whole reason that this crazy podcast came about, was just kind of stories about micromanaging and about crazy ass coworkers and people that we don't want to kill because we don't want to go to prison. But
I was literally just telling another consultant, I can't do that. I can't get Amazon Prime in prison.
oh my God, that's hilarious. Well, as you can tell, it's just not me hosting today. I actually have a fabulous guest, Miss Katie Howard. I'm super excited to have her on my podcast today. Katie cuts, it's really going to make her sound old, but she's not. And she's quite gorgeous. So she started probably when she was like 8 years old. So those of you that eventually will watch this on YouTube will see how beautiful she is. So Katie actually I know I'm full of flattery today. Some people would say I'm full of bull poop, but I'm totally I don't flatter people for the sake of flattery. And I'm looking off at this bio of Katie, and we'll talk about
Am
the
I in the
good
blue
stuff.
jacket? I have the blue jacket
You look
on.
quite lovely.
Yeah, but I'm tired of seeing that blue jacket. I'm not gonna lie.
Time for some headshots.
I need some new headshots.
So we're like the hardest of ourselves. I lost 107 pounds almost 2 years ago, and I finally got headshots redone, and I just laughed because I'm like, whoa.
They're great too. I love your headshots.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, let me tell you about this fabulous host that I have on here, and hopefully she'll be a frequent guest, because Katie and I just literally hit it off the first time we had a discovery call that lasted almost an hour, and usually they last about 20 minutes. But we have a lot in common. Katie has spanned a variety of employment sectors, including government, do tell, healthcare, which is always exciting. Professional employer organizations, also affectionately known to people in the HR world as PEOs. She's developed expertise in all facets of human resources, including talent management, total rewards, performance management, and compliance. Ooh. You can't really see the compliance side, but Katie invests time in understanding culture, which obviously is critical to the success of an organization, challenges and goals, and ensures her recommendations are uniquely tailored to meet the client's needs. Wow, that sounds super exciting. Katie doesn't seem like she would have a degree in finance, because I'm married to a man with a degree in finance, and you are actually quite funny. Not that he's not. He has a secret funny sense of humor. You just have to get to know him, but he definitely has a finance degree. She is certified with her PHR, which is professional human resources, which is a fantastic kind of long drawn out test that those of you that don't know anything about HR, we get certifications to take this rather boring test. And it's basically the land of utopia. It's like, so what decision would you make if you're sitting in the HR seat and everything was perfect? And we as HR people, when we take that test, just kind of laugh.
And there's two right answers. There are always two right answers. And which one is more right? That's
the most rightest.
Yes, the most rightest. Only HR people would have. There's a better right, and then there's a right. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, 100%. So Katie comes to us, coastal Georgia. We were having this conversation. She has mountains on her background, and I have the ocean on my background. And
we kind of should switch, even though you're not super close, but you're closer than I am, for sure.
I know. Yeah. It's funny. Today, we're going to spend some time talking about generations in the workplace, which is actually one of my favorite topics. And I'm not sure if our listeners are even aware of the fact that there are 5 generations in the workplace. 5. Like, I'm just dumbfounded. And that's actually according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm going to post that link in case anybody wants to look at some stats about the different generations in the workplace. Today, we're going to spend time talking about a little bit about them. I'm sure that we'll expand more on this, since my podcast is generally about 27 minutes long. We'll talk about the different things, different people, things, sometimes, whatever you want to call them. He, she, we, they.
People. Yeah. Right.
In the workplace. And then we'll come back and we'll probably circle back around, which is one of my favorite phrases to use in corporate jargon. We should do a whole podcast on stupid corporate jargon.
I actually watched a reel on where they broke up using corporate jargon, and
Oh my
I'll send it
God.
to you. Hilarious.
Okay, that will be funny. But we'll talk about the different generations, and then Katie will break down kind of ways that they probably either like to be managed, or the way to increase engagement, or just to like get them overall involved in your corporate culture so that they are contributing to your work organization and not hindering or driving you bat beep crazy. That's my beep. Bat
That
beep
be
crazy.
that be
Bat beep crazy. I joke that I love Jesus, but I cuss a lot. So I have to
from
keep it.
Ohio originally. I'm pretty sure the F bomb was like taught in school.
Well, I've worked in like construction companies,
Oh,
engineering, that kind of stuff. So we tend to drop that a lot. And when it comes out of the HR person's mouth, they tend to go, oh, what?
yeah. Yeah. I
It's
know.
crazy.
When we're
Let's talk about
actually
the, go ahead.
probably the worst for using it.
I know. And it's always the funniest when it comes out of our mouth. And let's talk about these 5 generations. So the first one on my list that I have actually is it looks like the
Yeah, like the
traditionalist.
greatest
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of what that group consists of.
Well, quite honestly, it's the smallest group in the workforce right now. Interestingly enough, it's, like some of our parents.
Hmm.
However, they're returning to the workforce either because to keep their mind active or the economy is scaring the ever living crap out of them. And so therefore to make ends meet, they've, re-entered the workforce or hung on longer. Again, it's a dwindling group. Not that sounds horrible, like they're dying off, but not, no, they're not, but they are. It is definitely where the migration is coming more from the younger, and they're finally retiring out. So but these are your lifelongers. They probably spent, I can think of a nurse that she spent like 42 years at a
Whoa.
hospital. And I just read she just recently retired. I know another sheriff's officer who's kind of on the cusp of it. And he's actually been with the organization almost 40 years. And now he's about to retire. And I'm thinking but they're just so loyal, and they are defined
Hmm.
by, who they are in the organization.
That's crazy if you think about it. Also, the traditionalists are known as the silent generation.
Yeah.
They survived the Great Depression, World War II. My parents are baby boomers, so their parents were these traditionalists.
Yeah.
This stat from the BLS says about 12% of people above 75, fathom that, above 75, will
Okay.
actively participate in the workplace by 2030. So if it's 2024. So for the next 6 years,
I swear to
you'll
God,
have
I
around
hope at
12%.
75 I'm not still working. I
Holy
mean,
crap. Me too, sister.
bravo for having that like passion for it. And I get it. And the thing is, they had such passion for it. They never questioned management either. That is unheard of.
Hmm.
Like, you earn your spot, you go with it. So I'm sure their mind is getting blown as more and more generations enter the workforce. So they've got some great staying power. But I mean, again, at 75, I hope I have long pieced out. I really do.
More ways than one. I hope I'm on that beach. That's in the background
Right.
by the
Like,
time
let
I'm
me be in this
75.
mountain. Let me be on your beach. I love my job and James Moore, but no, no, at 75, no.
It's interesting if you look at the staying power. I actually did a podcast on ageism a couple of podcasts ago, and really talked about some of the disadvantages that older workers have, and some of the programs out there, such as the Walmart greeter. It gets a bad rap. People make fun of that position, but I have a Walmart greeter that I see on a regular basis, and he loves his job. I swear he's going to be the one that's probably outlives most of the people that are still working at Walmart. I think he's probably just going to stay there until he can no longer physically do it. But I mean, you're right. When he's there to keep his mind fresh, and he just loves the
Right.
interaction. And he lost his wife, and
Oh,
this several years ago, and he decided to come back to the workforce just so that he could keep his mind fresh and that he had that
right. The social
interaction.
aspect, which I get, that's huge. And,
Yeah.
and it probably honestly does keep him going. So, there's I totally get it. It's just, wow. I'm
Do
not
something.
sure that would be the path but again, there has to be people out there that are like that. And I know we do see, just like you said, employers pass beyond them
Hmm.
because, you'll lie all the time. Oh, I wouldn't discriminate over age, but
That
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
it does all the time.
So, for those of you that are wondering the age group for that, the traditionalists or the silent generation are the ones that are born between 1928 and 1945. So, if you're keeping score. Now, generations are not new discussions in the workplace. People have been talking about generations for as long as I can remember. I actually wrote one of my master's degree papers on generations in the workplace, particularly focused on millennials and Gen Z. And we'll talk about those lovely people here in just a minute. But I do think it's becoming more and more prevalent as we're saying those traditionalists or silent generation are getting fewer and fewer and fewer to retiring, right? So something to consider as an employer. And we'll spend some time probably on our next podcast because this is such a prevalent topic, and I want Katie to share knowledge on how to engage traditionalists and kind of the backstories that they bring, and the how to work with somebody, particularly if you're a young manager and you're like, oh my god, I'm working with my grandparents. So I definitely want to do a dive into that and really talk about that. The next class to move into would be the baby boomers, and just for a range of reference, those are people that are born from 1946 through 1964. The generations are divided because it's a cluster of birth rates around those years. So if you're looking at kind of where do these names come from, or how do they come about, or what's going on, or did we just pull this out of thin air? This has actually been studied. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has been studied through time. There's all kinds of books out there on different generations as well, in case you're interested. But it also, if you look at what makes these generations, it's different things that impact their lives during that time period. So traditionalists, the silent generation, were impacted by the Great Depression and World War II, where baby boomers, more people were starting to enter the workplace.
Cold
You were trying,
War was,
yeah.
Man on the Moon.
Oh yeah,
That was
Man on
kind
the
of,
Moon,
yeah,
Vietnam. I mean, some stuff like
Kennedy
that.
assassination. Like that was like their big, big,
Civil
big
rights.
civil
I mean, if you,
rights, of course. Yes,
yeah,
that's huge.
if you see some of the laws that came about during this time period, you actually have the Civil Rights Act of
Well, Title VII,
1964.
right?
Yeah, that really
That was
is.
64, wasn't it? I think it was
Yeah,
64. Yeah.
yeah. If you think about that, that's crazy. That wasn't even really that long ago. I mean, what, 60 years ago? But just the changes that in itself, that's a whole nother podcast
Oh,
talking
Lord.
about Civil Rights Act, that Title VII, because it wasn't even supposed to happen. Quite
I
frankly,
wasn't
it
talking
was.
about, oh Lord, the civil rights. I don't want to say, but I was like, I thought you were going to drop the word EEOC, and I'm like, oh God.
She's gonna come through the screen and stab me with a fork, Karen.
I was like, there's a four-letter word.
That's a whole nother podcast. We'll have to bring in an employment attorney for that one. So let's talk about these baby boomers. Kind of, they make up many baby boomers retired during the pandemic. So we saw kind of a mass
Yeah, it was
exodus
interesting. They
of
were holding
them.
on for a really long time. Like, in fact, like people were starting trying to motivate them to get them off their health plans, before COVID, all the and they're kind of like, why would I leave? I'm doing great. I'm happy. So I'm gaining my retirement. They were really motivated to hang on a lot. And then the whole, COVID turned the four-letter word, turned everything on its, and they're like, nope, don't like this.
Yeah.
Now, then we have, they didn't like the remote workplace. They didn't like the fragmentation. I mean, this is a fun fact. These are the people who brought United States. Like when you meet someone, hi, I'm Katie. And what's the second question we often ask? Not, besides where are you from? It's
What do you
what do you
do?
do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? They
Yeah.
started that. No, I didn't realize this. Barely any other countries do that, by the way. They're like, why do you care what I do? But
I didn't even
that's
really
where they
think about
started.
that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is the generation that truly lives to work. Like
Oh
I
my
look at
gosh.
my parents,
My
particularly my
parents are the
mother.
same.
Oh my gosh. My mom and
She
my stepfather worked at the same company like for 30 plus years, and they retired. And were dumbfounded at the fact that I was changing jobs, particularly frequently. They're like, why can't you? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not getting what I want. Second of all, why stay there? Like, they don't care about me.
Right. My mom did the whole same. She owned a salon my whole life almost. I mean, I know she did start out at a shop prior, but my whole life she had some form of a salon and it just grew. My father worked at two different places. That was it. He was,
Mm.
he started as a lineman and then he was superintendent. He got promoted to a superintendent at a municipality, but he only worked two places like almost his whole life that I recall. So that's like 44 years.
Oh my God. Well, let
So
me add to that, Katie. This statistic that I'm reading right now, on average, boomers held 12 jobs over their lifetime, only half of which were after the age of 24. So if you think about that, like I've held 12 jobs in like 10 years. No, I'm just kidding. But
well, no, and now, I mean, even us, Dawn, because I know we're kind of like in the same bracket. I remember getting out, and I'm a Gen Xer. When I got out of college, I took a job for 9 months, and then I left, and then I took another job when I relocated
Mhm.
here to Florida, and it was but fortunately for the wrong person. But I had already taken another job. And I was like, well, I have to stay here. In my mind, I had to stay, for 3 years to at least not get the big red double J's of job jumper off my chest. It's like the scarlet letter of the world. And now it's totally different. Like they look at us gigs, they're gypsies, man. If you get 2 years. And so training our boomer business owners to be like, dude, 2 years is good. Stop
Yeah.
flagging out resumes because you only see 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. So I've been working a lot with my boomer clients, like, stop.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different mentality now. And you're
Oh my
missing out on
gosh.
talent passing by those applicants.
Totally true. And I struggle with that too with some of my clients too. I'm very much like, let's look at the experience they can bring. Even if it's 2 years, I'll take it kind of thing. So in fact, I'm like, if somebody's been here 18 months, maybe that's a statistic for the next thing I need to look up, like the average lifespan of some of these
Like a
generations.
tenure, right? I
Yeah,
would like to
it would
see
be
what it's
hilarious.
trending to be now,
That's
you
my
know.
takeaway. That's what I'll do our next podcast when we meet and we talk about kind of what we need to do to engage these people. So it's very much the baby boomers. The baby boomers got their theme or got their name, particularly because when their parents, the Great Generation or the Great Depression and the World War II parents came back from war, there was a massive amount of babies born during this time frame, and that's why it's called the baby. That's why they're called baby boomers.
They
Just in
were all
case y'all
real
wondered.
happy to see each other.
I mean, they didn't have the internet. They couldn't keep up. They didn't have FaceTime. They couldn't keep up with their significant others when they were stationed overseas fighting the war. Like nowadays, I mean, my son is in the army and is about to be deployed, and recently just got married. And I'm like, oh well, I mean, he'll be able to keep up with his wife. So it's
Yeah.
very much like, so, I mean, not handwritten letters like our
I
great
know, but there is
grandparents
such
did.
a
So
romance to handwritten letters. I
I
mean,
know. Take note. Send
yes.
somebody a
Do you
letter
hear
today.
us, men? We still love the handwritten letters.
So I baby boomers, there was a huge shift to the birth rates that happened. And then came around me and Katie's favorite generation, because they by far, Gen X has the best music known to man. And I will argue anybody to that
I
fact.
agree. I agree. I 1,000% agree.
So these
I'm
Gen
sorry. I feel like we're the greatest
we
generation.
are.
We were feral. It was amazing. Latchkey kids were like 8 years old, hiding a key under the stump. Let yourself in, figure it out.
Babysit your sibling. I mean, that
Right.
kind of
Like
stuff.
come home when the street lights. I don't think my dad knew where we were 92% of the time when he was in charge. Like he was just
Oh, I
like,
don't think mine did either.
bye.
And if I were
Get out.
calling my mom during the day, it better because someone is bleeding or
Right. Oh
dead
yeah. Mm-mm.
or the dog has bitten them. I mean, it was crazy. So, but Gen Xers were born from 1965 to 1980. And as Katie said, they were known as the latchkey kids, particularly because we wore our keys around our necks and we let ourselves into the house, or we hid them in the rocks
Right.
outside of the yard, which
Well, both our
I wore
parents
mine
were
around my neck.
working. Like
Yeah.
that was the new thing. That was kind of, yes, people worked, prior to that,
Mhm.
but not to the effect when boomers came to the workforce, the women and the men were hitting it hard. And it's like, oh, yeah, we have these things called kids. What are we going to do?
Well, and it's funny because you see this shift in dynamics from the baby boomers who were raised by these traditionalists where their moms stayed at home, primary caregivers, or their moms were in traditional jobs such as nurses and
Right.
teaching. And so,
Teachers. Yeah.
yeah, you just didn't see a whole lot of it. So baby boomers actually kind of were the first to, there was a huge increase, and you see it in the statistics, but there was a huge increase in dual family incomes. There was a huge increase in divorce rates.
Yeah.
There was a huge increase in moms entering the workforce. Oh, and did I mention there was a huge increase in birth control? And so what happened during this time period is
I
these baby
listen,
boomers,
preach,
like,
Dawn. I lived this at 40. I'm like, what the heck? I have all these priorities and no help. Bye. That was divorce.
yep. Well, and not only that, it was like birth control hit the market at that same time that the baby boomers in. So that free love that the baby boomers experienced, they had birth control for their free love. And so that's why the Gen X group is actually the smallest generation ever because our parents thought we were feral and didn't want to have any more of us.
You're like, this is a lot of work and stuff.
It was crazy. I look back on that. I'm like, how the hell did I survive? I mean, I drank out of
Well,
a hose. I rode a bike without a helmet.
I mean, we would, the armrest in a car, like, I remember sitting on it as a kid, like, just like it was
with the
like a bicycle. And
with the cigarette thing in the seat in
yeah,
front of you.
right. Yeah, like the little armrest and there the cigarette, and probably my dad was smoking, like, and he, thank God he probably at least cracked a window and, but it was hysterical.
Oh my gosh. So we're an interesting group because we were around when Al Gore invented the internet. Uh,
Right. And it
so,
was so funny because I just watched it because I'm here. Well, I was the late Gen X, like literally 79. So I was on the tail end.
oh,
So
you're the baby.
I do have a touch of millennial in me, just a
Hmm.
hair when it's
Yeah.
convenient. And like I like work-life balance, but I feel real freaking guilty about it from my boomer side. I feel like we are like boomer millennial hybrids. It's
Yeah, I
like,
can see that.
yeah, but it's just crazy because like I was watching this things that happened in the 90s. It was all about when the dot-com explosion
Oh
happened
yeah.
and how crazy that all was. And it was just it was complete insanity and how corrupt it was at the same
Mm.
time and people just doing all things. But I divulged. But that was that was all of us. We, the internet. I mean, that's why we're email freaks. I freaking love an email. By God. Now it gets more than four sentences. You've lost me because of my ADHD that was never diagnosed because I played outside all day. But
Oh my
by all
gosh,
means,
100%.
I am the email girl that'll be like, got it, thanks. Like a response isn't necessary,
Yeah,
but I
like,
still, yeah, that's
or
me.
you could have done this in a meeting. Yeah. Or you could
Right,
have done this
right.
in an email kind of thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's funny. So it's funny. My husband is a cusp Gen X baby boomer. And so he has
Okay.
a lot of like loyalty to his company that he's
Yeah.
worked. Like the man has had 3 jobs in his 35-year career. And I'm just like, holy crap. I've had 3 jobs in 8 years. So it's just very much like I'm definitely pure on right in the middle Gen Xer. So moving into the next group, which is the AKA the millennials or the Gen Y group. This group was born between 1981 and 1996. So again, Katie's right on the cusp of that. Millennials actually fit right on both sides of the technological shift. So while Gen X experienced literally remote controls that were changed to their TV,
No,
where
I
you
was a
couldn't
remote
move out that.
control.
Yeah.
Like,
So
go
you
press that button.
to where now we walk around with our TVs in our pocket. I mean, millennials actually saw this increase in technology. However, the millennials actually have had to experience the Great Recession. They went through 9/11. Many of them were highly influenced by 9/11 because they were children. They have the highest student loan debt, and many millennials are being promoted from the standard employee into manager. So you're seeing a really huge shift because Gen X is so tiny. that you're seeing this shift of millennials being promoted into managers. What other things are you seeing on the millennial side of
Well, I know
the
they're real
board?
happy Gen Zs in the workforce now because they were the butt of everybody's joke for years. It's like, oh, you entitled jerks, you want things out of your career and you don't want to work for them, you know. And I think the whole everybody got a trophy, and it's when feelings started really mattering. And I'll tell you, like,
Mm-hmm.
millennials coming into the workforce was a shift that I watched happen in HR, because when I started in HR, you know, it was you were doing good if they showed up on time,
Yep.
did the bare minimum of their job. I'm not talking exceed, didn't work the clock. You don't ask them about their mental health. You don't care about what's going on in their life. Do your job, go home, do not engage in any, because if you find out those things, then we might have to care, and we don't want to care. Then they're like, yeah, I need you to care. And then we're like, oh, that's when culture started coming into the workforce,
Yeah.
mental health. They didn't care if you were burned out before then. It's like, I mean,
We're so insensitive.
right. Now it's like employee engagement, culture, all of that started happening because the millennials are like, yeah, I'm not going to be just a number. So I am thankful for what they've brought, but they really got a bad rap for bringing it. It's like they did. They were just labeled a lot of things.
Whiny,
Whiny.
lazy.
And, you know,
Yeah.
anytime I do like a presentation on general, because it's really one of my favorites, like the picture for the token millennial is like a guy with a beard holding a craft beer. Because it's just, that's the poster child. Now, I apologize to the guy and holding his phone. He had a beer
Oh
in one hand and he's
my
holding his
gosh.
phone in the other. So, yeah, but they got a really bad rap, but they really did bring a ton into the workforce. And they're pretty financial conscious because they did watch a lot of their parents' house go bankrupt,
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
actually, because some of them are raised by boomer parents that weren't around, they actually missed their parents. Where we went feral, they actually wanted a family and
They're
stuff.
like, we want to be
So,
with you.
right. But they also, again, their feelings. Everybody got a trophy, you know,
Yeah.
bullying. We can't no tolerate. And I'm not saying that's bad things. It's just it's great initiatives that came as a result. But you know, there was a lot of people that, okay, get over it. You're an adult, and it really, you know, the whole, especially like work-life balance. They're like, what do you mean
Hmm.
you want time off and you've only been here 5 minutes? Like,
Oh
we
yeah.
don't even give that out for a year, you know, that kind of stuff.
100%. Yeah, no, when I see that, most definitely. And and I've had to shift my own mindset. And so I'm really excited as we dive into this later on, really getting into how to motivate these people, or, you know, especially ones that don't have feelings, like Gen Xers, we don't have hearts. Like how do we have a heart? And then the last group is our Gen Z group. And this is the newest working generation group. This group was born between 1997 and 2012. I actually have a Gen Zer, and I
I do
have
too.
four millennials. So I have my own little, you know, work study group at home, if you will. So these Gen X or Gen Zers, sorry, Gen Z, are digital natives. Like they come of age with cell phones, social media, new technology that is changing every 5 seconds. And this is an interesting statistic for you, Katie. One fourth of the American population, they represent one fourth of the American population and are the most diverse generation in US history.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I and that technology is an extension of them. Like, it literally is connected to them. So my
Yeah.
employers are like, and I get it, like when there's, you know, security issues and stuff like that, and it's a requirement of the job, but you really need to watch your cell phone policies because you're going to lose a candidate pool. Because if they can't,
Mhm.
they just have to at least touch it and hold it.
It's an appendage.
It is. It's an
Like,
extension of their being. I mean, but
yeah.
here's the thing that always blew my mind. Here is a group of individuals, like when we were growing up, it was like movie stars, rock stars. That's who we looked up to. We didn't care about going viral, YouTube stars, you know, how many likes you get on Instagram, or, you know, who's following you, like how many followers. Oh, bomb, but you know, she's a TikTok star and she has this many followers. my brain hurts. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. But that's what motivates them. Like,
Hmm.
like, as an employer, they're so into recognition. Now, again, not so much criticism, but, and it's got to be individualistic. They want to
Hmm.
know why they are set apart from their peers because
Yeah.
they see some people do it this way and some people, and it all depends on who. And then you get more followers. They look at it like that. It's crazy. Like, it's not crazy. I don't mean to be like
No,
condescending.
it's just, I mean, it's just a crazy
It's just
attitude. That it's a different attitude. Yeah.
right.
We
It's just
might view it
my
as crazy, but to them, they're like, that's just the way I function.
right. It's my brain doesn't even, calculate that way. And I remember this is one of the things I was like, wow, mind blown. Now she'll be a Gen Alpha. She's my youngest, but she was, God, 3 years old. And the big screen TV, of course, big flat screen was on. And she walked up to it and went to swipe it to change the channel. And I'm like,
That's awesome.
wow.
That is
But that's
awesome.
how they're raised. iPads,
Yeah.
everything's digital. God, they don't, I mean, they won't call to make a doctor's appointment because they don't want to talk to somebody. They would rather go register their own appointment, do
That's
it
so funny.
themselves.
Well, this is such a great topic, and I can't wait to dive more into it here in the next podcast. Like Katie is, both of us are very passionate about this, if you couldn't tell. And Katie and I just hit it off when we first started talking, and we
I
have so
know.
much to talk about. But she's probably just going to be a regular guest. I'll be like,
I'm
in
fine.
fact,
I
we
would love that. I mean, because
but we'll just
again,
call it
you
the
and I
Katie and
just
Don show.
chat and chat and chat and chat and like rabbit hole, rabbit hole.
I know there's so much. Well, I just want to thank Katie for jumping in on this first round of workplace generations, and I definitely look forward to exploring this more in depth. So keep an eye out for any of our upcoming things. And if you, of course, we'd love a 5-star rating. Please, you tell your friends, promote the podcast. Dear HR Diary is not just about HR stuff, but how to be a better manager and a better employee as well. So thanks, Katie, for
Thank
joining
you.
today, and all my fabulous workplace warriors. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dear HR Diary, brought to you by Manage with Hart. Stay fabulous, everyone.